Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.
Welcome to Just a Jew. I'm your host, Arthur Malik. Today we have a model of an example for women, and I think just people in general. She's reached a pinnacle that so many people are afraid to attempt to reach. And her name is Dr. Cynthia Ashley. Doc, tell us a little bit about the obstacles or hurdles that lie before you that you've overcame.
Wow. That's a loaded question because, and first I want to say thank you for allowing me this platform.
It's definitely a pleasure.
To be here with you, to talk to your audience, because anytime on, in front of a camera or behind a mic is a blessing.
Right.
If it's 1 minute or 1 hour. So congratulations and thank you for...
Thank you.
Well, I tell you, wow, where do I begin? Like, I first off, I was born in Georgia, right? And my mom was a teenage pregnant. She was pregnant in her junior year.
Right.
In high school. She was actually all American. Can you believe it? My
And what
mom.
sport? And what?
In Tattnall County,
Okay.
down in Georgia. I believe the school was Reesville High, and she basketball.
Wow, my sport. Okay.
All American. People would come out, everybody to see Vivian, my mom. May her soul rest in peace. She transitioned not too long ago.
My condolences. Rest in peace, Mom.
Thank you. And so her having me and being pregnant, it was like a shame, if you will. It was something shunned, of course, right? Back in the 60s and before then. Nowadays, young girls are having babies.
It's the style. It's the style nowadays.
Is that what it is? It's a style?
It's a style to have.
Well, babies having babies pretty much, right? But anyhow, I ended up having, being pregnant as a teenage. Also junior in high school. And I actually was going to drop out. Can I just say that for the audience? I was going to drop out. No, I was going to drop out and do my GED because I was just tired. I was pregnant and tired. But somehow, some way, and I want to say by divine appointment, I was on the bus going to my medical, you have to go get prenatal care when you're pregnant. You should. Women, girls. And one of my schoolmates was on the bus and she was like, Cynthia, where you been? You've been missing. I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I'm on my way to, my prenatal now. She was like, oh my God, you should, don't just quit school. And I was like, well, I've missed so many days now, like, almost a semester. She said, no, but talk to the counselor. And sure enough, I went the next day and I met with the counselor, and the counselor said, Cynthia, you have been missing. What is going on? And I told her. She said, oh, no, you can't. You can't. What she did is she found a maternity school for me. And that is what saved me. That was the saving grace of divine intervention. Because me going to Martha Nielsen Maternity School, at that age, I was able to bring myself to a place now where I could still do my academics, not, if I didn't make it to school, they wouldn't hold it against you. Like there were certain benefits.
But it was still resilience, though. And when I'm just listening to you, and we saying divine decree or whatever, but we still can't negate the fact that it was embedded in you, that resilience, because if you wanted to give up, you could have given up. So you still have to displayed that resilience.
Yeah, I like the way you articulate that. And for saying that, if I've had that resilience from a little child, though, because even before I went to school, and I'm just digressing for a moment, because I just, you taking me there. I was like 3 years old, and every day, 4 years old, I would say, Ma, when am I going to school? Ma, when am I going to school? And she would always say, and this is no lie, this is no fabrication, tomorrow, tomorrow. So every day, but I didn't get mad like, Mommy, today is tomorrow. I would just say, Ma, when am I going to school? The next day, tomorrow. It was like a repetitive, when am I going to school? tomorrow. And then finally tomorrow came, and it was on my birthday, September 14th, that first year in kindergarten.
Wow.
So when she said tomorrow that time, it was really
serious.
tomorrow. Yeah. And then when I went to school, I mean, from school, kindergarten first, I did my homework. I mean, like I would come to my parents and say, look, look, look. And I would show them, they didn't have to stay on me. So yeah, I had always had that resilience.
And the only reason I ask you about, because I like to know a person's dark side prior to understanding their success, because to me, success is meaningless without the failures.
Yes,
you see, if we can't mention the failures, then the success is meaningless, because if I was born with $10 million, I can say, well, I'm very successful. No, you have to go through something and then achieve something higher to be successful.
Absolutely.
And this is why I wanted to deal with your obstacles.
Yes.
And now I want to know some of the things that you've acquired, that you've succeeded in.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's fast forward. The pregnancy, I did, I graduated out of Martha Nielsen Maternity School, and so now I have my son. But keeping in mind, I always loved learning, always, from a little child, loved it. So when I was in junior high, before I went to high school, I used to type. I would get awards for typing. I mean, I was a speed typer. So that gave me an opportunity to be a secretary somewhere or a typist somewhere. So I used to cut school.
Play hooky.
Just to take a temp job.
Wow.
To type somewhere. Yeah. Like I just intuitively, I would do that. I mean, yeah, I would cut school, but who cared about school? Like I'm getting ready to get, $3, $4 or $5, whatever, an hour, whatever the $3.50 an hour, whatever it was. But the point I'm making is I've always had skills, a skill set. And so after graduating from high school and having my baby, my son, who today, well, I won't tell you how old he is today, no. Then that'll give away my age.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, should I?
I definitely would pull my calculator out and figure it out right quick.
Well, that's not a dark side, though. Okay. You want to hear the dark side.
That's not a dark side. That's a blessing.
It is.
Some people right now,
it is.
They're not alive to
talk
about it. So
absolutely. I am. And I'm proud of my age. As a matter of fact, I've been through some real storms of life. And
you still ain't mentioned it, though, but go ahead. You said you're proud of it. I know you still ain't mentioned that age, but go ahead.
My son just turned 38.
Okay.
Okay. So, but again, I had my son very young, and so, but during the time, I have to say, at 13 years old, okay, I got to digress for just a moment, and I'm not going to take up too much time with that. Prior to getting pregnant in junior, in high school, at 13 years old, I found out that my dad was not my real dad.
Wow.
He was my adopted dad, but I never knew that. It's pretty much, it was like hidden. It was a secret, if you will. And, family gatherings, I'm from Georgia, so, the family, oh, that child looked just like him. Ooh, so you get to hear and it's like, who are they talking about, Mom? No, nobody. But come to find out, after doing some research, snooping, I found out that I had 2 different last names. And I didn't understand on my birth certificate and on my immunization. And so the question came up, who am I? And my mom, she had made a promise to my adopted dad that I would never find out, and now it was too late. And she, so it was a crossroad for her. It was a crossroad for him. It was a crossroad for me. And I was just 12 going into 13 years old. I was just entering high school. As a matter of fact, I went into high school at 13 years old, right? In 9th grade, I was 13, right? And so I found out that he wasn't my real dad, and that tore me up.
Did that change the dynamics
it
between
changed
you and your
everything.
mama?
It changed everything for me. Everything. Why did it change everything for me? Because I felt betrayed. I felt lied to. I felt abandoned. I felt at the time I didn't know those feelings, but through recovery, I know all about feelings.
Right.
I can identify feelings because I have recovery in my life, right? But I'm telling you, as a 13-year-old, maybe I wasn't ready for the truth, if you will. So rebellion opened its door. And once rebellion opened its door, everything else came in, drugs, alcohol, everything. I mean, I would drink every day a little shot of VO because we had a bar in the living room. And, kept liquor because, family
Was
drinks
that
or whatever.
used as an escape route?
That
You
was my
trying
escape. That was my escape to feel, to not feel,
to numb
and
yourself.
to numb myself, to medicate myself, and to be able to hang out with the children I did not desire to be around. You understand? Because
Of course.
I didn't like a lot of them because they were smoking weed and this and that. But in order to be around them, a little shot of VO or Seagrams, I could now tolerate them.
When you were numb, you can tolerate something that you would have no tolerance for because of your escape route.
Exactly. So that was a dark side, and that was based on home life, because I believe everything does begin at home. And I believe that truly, and if we really start to, look at things from, where did it begin? It begins at home, and that's real. That's whether it's a foster home, a guardian home, wherever. It begins at home, whether it's with mommy, daddy, auntie, it doesn't matter. It begins at home, and then it goes out.
Home in itself describes it because, it doesn't begin in a house. You just said it begins in a home.
Thank
a
you.
home is a setting where,
That's
it's
right.
a safe haven.
That's right.
It's a safe haven. It's where you're educated. It's where you showed your morals, your principles.
Yes.
So, of course, it's a home, but so many people, like me, I was raised up in a house, not a home. So I understand the escape route. I understand the things that you look for to numb yourself. So I understand all you're saying because you were in a home.
Yes.
You were in a home and it was disrupted by the truth because the truth came too late.
And I'm trying to think, was it too late or too early? Because I was 13, but I wanted to know. Because our adolescents today, they want to know truth. But maybe during my time, I just wasn't really ready for the truth. I don't know.
I think, of course, you wasn't because you were 12 years old, 13 years old. At that time, you're in your prime now. You learned a lot about the world at that particular junction in your life. And you was studious already. So you was beyond the average 13 or 12-year-old. So then if they would have told you at the age of 1 year old, excuse me, this is not your real father, but he's going to love you, he's going to adore you as if he is. You could have worked with that. You could have nurtured into that. You could have matured into that. But you can't wait to tell a child at the age of 12 or 13, no, I'm not your parent. When they fell in love. You see, if they would have told you before you understood the concept of love, then it wouldn't have hurt as much.
Yeah, because the point that you're making is that from 0 to 6 years old is when children are like sponges.
That's when
you could teach them all kind of languages. I mean, they're like sponges.
Exactly.
And you're absolutely right. So this is what happened. That's one of many dark sides. But I mean, that just opened up the door to, medicating myself with alcohol, drugs, etc. for a long time, 20 years, from 13 years old until I was 33. So now, mind you, I'm pregnant at 17 now. What am I doing now since I have been introduced to alcohol, drugs, etc., right?
Right.
My son in my belly would not allow me to drink, to smoke, to do anything. Every time I would attempt to, I would
Throw up.
and I would still try. But so after so many tries, I was like, forget about it. I can't. I can't. This is ridiculous. I'm just saying, I was like, I don't like the feeling of always having to. So I just stopped smoking, drinking, whatever. And then guess what else happened? My son would not let me even be around people because of the smoke.
Get nauseous.
I would get nauseous. I was like, you know what? I can't do this either. So my son in my belly prohibited me from using alcohol and drugs. And as soon as I gave birth, what did I do? Went right back to the race. And so my son actually saw some things, I'm sure, even though I might have thought I was hiding. But kids see. Kids are not, they're smart. Our children are smart. These millennials today are off the chain, and our babies, it's like they've been here before. So, but you know what? I did the best that I could with my son, with what I was working with. But one thing I will say is that after giving birth to my son, after about 6 months, I wanted to go back to school because I kept looking for jobs. And every time I would go to a job, I would be putting down $150 a week. And then I would see other women that was applying for the same job. They was putting down $300 and $400. And I was like, well, what they got that I don't have? And I realized it was an education. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't have college. So I started talking to some neighbors because I moved out. I had my son, 17, moved out, lived with his dad. We had our first apartment, what have you. And my next door neighbor, she was going back and forth to school. And she kind of led me to how to go about getting a college loan school. And so I actually applied for, the Pell Grants and all that stuff. And I went to the Borough of Manhattan Community College. And I just gave a stab at it because remember, I didn't like, after I got all twisted, school wasn't even important,
wasn't the top
right?
Of the chart.
Not like it was when I was growing up. Like you said, I had resilience. I was astute, right? But after going back to school, my counselors told me, "What are you doing in a community school? You should be in a university. Why are you in CUNY? You should be in SUNY." And I didn't understand all of that because, I had a special grant that Percy Sutton, I was pulled out of a lottery where books was paid for, everything. I had it made. Had I known not to take a break for 20 years later, and then I was involved in doing drugs or whatever. But I had found out later that had I continued to go to school, I would have still been on that same lottery path that was given by Percy Sutton to children, youth like myself who were doing higher education, but you can't take a break. You can't leave school and then come back because now you waive all of that. I never knew that. I just wish I would have known that because I probably would have been a doctor a long time ago, if you will.
Yeah, but it wasn't meant for you.
It wasn't meant. It wasn't meant. It was the path. You're right. That was chosen for me, to be honest. And I believe that my steps are ordered. I do believe that. I honestly do. And I believe that the choices that I make today are a direct result of my life today. So I don't regret anything at all.
That's right.
Where I am today, I'm the person that I am today because of what I've gone through to get to this place today.
I think it's phenomenal because I know there's some young ladies are watching right now. Not just young ladies, there's women in particular that's watching, maybe on welfare, maybe on drugs, and they are listening to you speak about your past life and the obstacles that you've turned into stepping stones.
Yes.
And I want them to look at you and understand the resilience that they have, because if you can do it, they can do it. And you're compelling them to do it through this conversation that we're having. And so often people want to be a diamond, and I see you as a diamond now, but they are afraid to speak about the cold process. And I think it's imperative to understand your cold process. We have to go through a cold process to be the diamond. And you just illustrated that.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So I just want you young ladies and men who are watching this to understand that this is a model. This is an example that we can follow. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to give up. We have to get up.
I love that. We don't have to give up. We have to get up. And I did. I got up.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you, but it was a made up mind, if you will, right? Like my mind was set because for 20 years being dulled, being clouded, being medicated, right? Being numb.
Right.
I was lost. And I totally lost. And would have dreams like I was dying. Death was at my door. And so many today live this way. And even more so with all of the pharmaceutical legalized drugs and prescriptions. People are walking dead, zombies today. And it's sad because it's not totally their fault or my fault because it's been, and it's just so fluid, if you will, right? It's available everywhere you go. Across the country. And where do we get these drugs from? I've heard stories of, people who have become addicted is because they had a knee surgery or they had an accident or something happened that they had to take pills. And then going from painkillers they're expensive. After a while, then they go to the next thing, which is easier to get, which is heroin. I mean, it's an epidemic. And I just say that because, you know, as someone in recovery, as someone who has lived 2 lives in 1 lifetime, okay, I can tell you from my own experience, my strength, and my hope, that there is hope after dope. There is a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. Like, it's not the end. This is not your end. This is not your end. You know, this is just the beginning of what can be. That's so right. If I can go back to school and after 20 years of, you know, this dis-ease of addiction, because addiction is a disease. That's what they taught me in the books. Right. That it's a disease like lupus, cancer, anything, and it has no cure. So because it has no cure, it can only be arrested a day at a time. And how is it arrested? You can't use. You just can't use. But it's hard not to use when you're addicted to use. So you have to get a support group, a network of people that you can trust, that you can talk to, and be able to, you know, unveil and reveal, you know, hidden things, because you don't want to sit with things hidden, because then those things get to brewing, and the next thing you know, you'll be back to the races. What? Doing once again what you did to medicate and to numb, right?
I'm glad you brought up the pharmaceutical though, because you know, that's the biggest.
That's what's going on right now.
Money making industry in the world.
Oh no, that is number one.
It's the biggest. That's why I said it's the biggest in the world. But however, what I do, it's like a girl being raped by her father, continuously being raped by her father, and then she gets out into the streets and become promiscuous. They will arrest her for becoming promiscuous and forget who made her promiscuous. You see, the raping of the father made her this. So, and what transpires when the drug addicts, because pharmaceutical and the doctors make these individuals drug addicts, and they punish the drug addicts and ignore the pharmaceutical for making them drug addicts.
But you know what that is, Malik?
It's money.
It's money. This is the capitalistic society in which we live. And capitalist means making money. And no matter at what cost, it doesn't matter at whose life is lost, it doesn't matter. But we cannot become part of the system. We have to go against the status quo and not become the status quo. That's why when you do manage to get to where you are after you come from a dark place and you come into the light, you want to be that light for other people so that they can glean from what you've experienced. So now your mess has become a message for hope. And so that's why I stand on the shoulders of, Sojourner Truth. I stand on the shoulders of Harriet Tubman. I stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before me, the ancestors who are now showing me how to be a role model.
And not to take anything away from the individual that you just mentioned. However, I don't like anyone to shortchange themselves.
Thank you.
Right? And honestly, because now you should be the epitome of these individuals. You should be the shoulders that people look forward to stand upon. You see, so we can't negate the fact that who you've become, you know, even though it's predicated on other individuals that came before you, but who you became is essential that we understand that also.
Thank you.
Now, I want you to share some of the things that you've accomplished thus far. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing now to help other people or to help yourself to help other people? What are you doing?
Okay, thank you so much.
So
I got to share my dark side, right? Yes. And there's so much more of that. But guess what? Without going into full details, you have to get my book, which is being published this year, and it's called No Trace, No Track. Right? My chronicles of overcoming the dis-ease of abuse and addiction. But my successes, or what I would call what I've been able to gain from all of my trials and tribulations cannot compare to what has divinely been orchestrated through all of those dark sides. And that is today I run a successful Black-owned, if you will, registered with the County of Westchester, a minority women's business enterprise, Total Faith Network media and Total Faith Network television media enterprise, where we create television programs like this one that you're doing. I do the same thing. I host a talk show and then I produce other shows, and we do media marketing, right? I'm the president and founder of that. I'm also the chair of Restoring Our Community Media and Arts Network Foundation, which is a not-for-profit, not like Total Faith Network, which is for-profit, but not-for-profit. In the Ackermans Rockman Foundation is where I give scholarships to children, youth from ages 12 up to 21 who want to continue education, and even if it's higher education, for books and supplement. And then we also give back to a lupus fund, because there's a lot of autoimmune diseases out here that are impacting our community, especially people of color. And so we give back to the autoimmune lupus fund, and we also give to the the Stride Walk Against Breast Cancer. That's our give back for the restoring our community. But more importantly, we're training and teaching young people, elders, I don't want to say old people, elders, young adults, youth, on how to use media literacy. Media literacy is so important. How to do camera work, how to anchor, how to do script writing, how to create a film, how to write a rap song, things that that are geared for the creativity of our young people. So that's like an alternative to possibly incarceration. Like we are here to help the community, restoring our media, restoring our community. Exactly, Media and Arts Network Foundation. But then also, here I am, Cindy Ashley Network International. I do public relations, right? But I've upscaled again by being a owner, a Black, fully, female, right? How hard it is to be in this country, not just being a woman of color, a person of color, but female. Okay, so we're really like,
But when you have that resilience, I don't think anything is really hard. Honestly, I really don't. If you have that resilience, it's not hard. It becomes hard because you don't have that resilience, and when you don't have that resilience, then that obstacle becomes an obstacle. But when you have that resilience, as I say, that obstacle becomes a stepping stone. So it's not hard for you, or if it was hard for you, you wouldn't be sitting in this chair talking about those accolades.
You are awesome. I just love your spirit. You know that? And that brings me to the conferences that I create for women empowerment business, the healing retreats that I do every year. These are annually for women who have been abused. It's time now for healing, restoration, and peace, right? And then also I have the Total Faith Network Awards Gala. I honor men and women like yourself who have been on my show or who have made great contributions through media and the arts in their community, the nation, and the nations.
What prevents you from being big-headed? Because oftentimes than not, I see people that made it from the ghetto or from the inner cities, and they make it to a specific apex in their life, and they become big-headed. So what prevents you, or are you big-headed, or if you're not, what prevents you from being big-headed?
I'm gonna tell you in one word: the God of my ancestors, the Creator of all creation. That's what keeps me humble. And to also knowing that with both my parents who both transitioned, they also speak to me. Because in order for me to keep what I have to give it away. And right now, I know you've been giving it away because you have me here. So I thank you for allowing me to talk to your audience today.
I thank you for being here. I wish we can talk more.
I'll come back.
I definitely would love to have you back, but right now we have to wrap it up. We're running out of time, but I definitely appreciate you. I want everyone who's watching to appreciate you and use you as an example.
Thank you so much, Malik.
I thank all you for watching. Just a Jewel with Arthur Malik. Stay blessed and stay safe.
Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.